So today we are going to learn about sampling technique. Sampling technique is the technique that is used by psychologists to gather sample or participants for their study. So it derives from the word sampling derives from the word sample. So sample is just a small number of people who join a study and they are the one experimented or tested to fulfill the aim of the researchers. Yeah. So let's move on. Okay, so this is what I said just now. Sample is taken from a target population. So it's just a small number of participants who are used in a study, and hope that it is hoped that this group of sample or people could represent the results of a whole target population. Yeah. So let's look into the purpose of using sampling technique. It is more or less impossible to study every single person in a target population. Target population is the group of people that the psychologists or the researchers interested to study. Thus, psychologists have to select a sample or a subgroup or small group of the population that is likely to be representative of the target population. Um, this is important because researchers or psychologists want to generalize from the sample. They want to come up with the conclusion from the sample who they are conducting study on. Because the more representative the sample, the more confident the researchers can be that the results can be generalized to the target population. So this goes to the last one, the last sentences here. The size of the sample is also matters. Small samples are less reliable and are likely to be less representative. So it's important to have a large number of sample if the researchers want to conduct a reliable or um, valid data, because the more the larger the number, it's going to be more reliable and valid. Yeah. All right. So there are three different types of sampling technique, and the first one is opportunity sampling technique. This is when studies are often conducted with the people who are around at the time. So these people are the one who are available. They have more free time, and they happen to be at certain places, certain area when the researchers are about to conduct the study. Or it could be the people who are close to the researchers, that the researchers do not have to go further to find the participants. It can be the people from the school, the army. It can be, yeah, anybody, but who live maybe closer to where the researchers do their work, or maybe where the researchers live. Um, and selecting participants in this way is called opportunity sampling. So opportunity, as what it sounds, it helps us to understand better how the researchers sample or gather the participants. This opportunity sampling technique is unlikely to represent the population fairly, because the people who are available at that time will be the will tend to be alike. They kind of be similar in terms of the criteria, so they are unlikely to include the variety that exists. For example, many studies are conducted using university students, as they are convenient for the researchers. It could be the people who the researchers work with, or these researchers are usually lecturers. They work as teachers, so it's easier for them to conduct study on their own students or their colleagues students, etc. However, this means that the sample will be young, normally, with a better than average education. This means that the results may not reflect the scores that people of different ages or educational opportunities might produce. Alright, so the participants or the sample are likely to be young, and they're not. researchers neglect or ignore other types of people, like older people and of different background, educational background, especially. So this might not be representative when it comes to the finding. Yeah. Despite this potential problem, opportunity sampling is the most common method used by professional psychologists. As for many investigations, the results are unlikely to be affected by age or education. Okay. So I hope you can understand. Moving on to the strengths and weaknesses. This is the common one. You will normally get the strengths and weaknesses for each and every method. So let's look into the first one. Okay, the first one is it's quicker to be applied because the researchers do not have to go elsewhere to find the sample, and the participants are usually there, readily available at that time. They don't have to go further to find more participants. But again, the weakness is it's likely to be non-representative. It's not going to be able to generalize um, the findings on other group of people who are not um, experimented. It's because the people who are readily available at that time will be limited in terms of the criteria, uh, and they are most likely to be similar in terms of the criteria. For example, there are students with the same educational background, with the same level, IQ level, sorry, oh my God, IQ level, okay. So the sample could therefore be biased, okay, right. All right, so the next one is volunteer or self-selected sampling. Rather than the researcher choosing individuals to ask, they may invite people to volunteer to take part in their study. They might put up an advertisement, make an announcement, or post a request on the internet. In this way, the people who respond and become participants choose to do so. That is known as volunteers. That is why it is described as volunteer sampling technique. Right. So you can see in the AS core study that we are about to learn. For example, Milgram study, it is when the participants volunteered themselves and they were paid for about $4.50 just to turn up in the study conducted to see the level of obedience of the participants. And of course, this will come with the strengths and the weaknesses as well. For example, you can see here the strength is easy to be applied because the participants are the one who come to the researcher, and when it comes to going to the researcher, maybe because you are paid, maybe because you just interested, or you don't have anything else to do, you have more free time, that is why you are highly committed and you are able to return back for the second, the third testing, etc. But for the weakness, the participants are likely to be non-representative of the target population or the whole population because they're the one who responded to the requests of the researchers, and therefore they're the one reading the, it could be the newspaper, it could be any announcement, post on Instagram, etc. But this does not represent the people who do not read the newspaper, who do not have any internet access, just to watch the YouTube, Instagram, etc. Okay, so the last one will be random sampling technique. Okay, random sampling technique is very different from opportunity and volunteer sampling technique because here the samples may not be biased. It's not biased um, because they're chosen equally um, from a sample of group. So that is when they are likely to be representative. Okay. So in random sampling, each person in the population has an equal chance of being chosen. So the sample is much more likely to be representative. For example, Imagine I am the researcher, I'm looking for a sample of students at my school, and I put an advert for volunteers on the library notice board. Students who never go to the library cannot be included, so my sample might be biased towards those who work the hardest. Okay, and similarly, if I took an opportunity sample from the common room, it will only include students who are relaxing. Now my sample might be biased towards the least hardworking. So in order to obtain a representative sample, I could instead use a numbered list of all students and use a random number to choose the participants. This will be a random sampling technique, as any individual is equally likely to be chosen. Yeah, right. Okay, let's move on to the strengths and weaknesses again. So the strengths, as I've mentioned earlier, is likely to be representative, as all types of people in the population are equally likely to be chosen. There is no biasness in terms of the finding here, meaning to say, and for the weakness, in reality, everyone may not be equally likely to be chosen. Example, if they cannot be assessed, or if mainly one type of participant, example, girls, have to be selected. Okay.